Hey, I hope everybody is doing well, and welcome to the Experience Leadership Institute, and Happy New Year. My name is Toye Oshoniyi, and I'm very excited to be here and chat with you guys today. I'm going to talk probably for about 30 minutes, and then we're going to open it up to a Q&A session. What I have to offer is just a little bit of insight into my life and what I've learned from my many work experiences. Hopefully some of this will resonate with you and maybe it's going to help you. I don't think anything I'm going to tell you is something you haven't heard before, but sometimes timing is everything, right? So maybe something I'm telling you now might resonate a little bit more than it would have a few months ago or a few weeks ago. I would say that we're going into some pretty exciting times and some very anxious times. So I just want to get a gauge from you guys, kind of in your situations where you are now. What's your anxiety level? And you can go ahead and just put it in the comments field, but on a scale from 1 to 10, where is your anxiety level? Is it a 1 being like not too anxious, like everything is great? Or is it a 10 where like, I just can't sleep at night? I'm little concerned or worried about the future and what it holds. If you guys can go ahead and put that in the comments, that'd be great, or in the chat box. And as you guys are doing that, okay, a 5, a 6, right, 7, solid 7 to 10. I like that. No 12s yet. Good. Well, so it seems like it's pretty consistent. We've got a good range. But we would all agree that there's some anxiety just because of our environment, with COVID and everything. We just don't know what's next. So what I'd like to do is start the conversation off in a journey, just telling you a little bit about myself. And so I recently turned 46. January 2nd was my birthday. I'm a father of 3 beautiful girls, and those are my children. They're 7, 5, and 2. I've been married for almost 10 years, and I've lived in Roanoke for almost the last 20 years. It's a gorgeous place to live. We love it. We've made it our home. I earn a pretty decent wage, and I have many different I've been in many different business ventures, ranging from soccer training business to real estate investing. I have had easily over 30 jobs in my lifetime. I don't know if that's good or bad. But reflecting back on them, what I can tell you is I found value in each and every job that I have had. I'm currently a risk advisor for Dominion Risk Advisors, and we sell property and casualty insurance to businesses. July of last year was a turning point for me. I had lost my job as a new business development manager for a commercial office furniture company, and that was due to COVID. And that was an industry that took a huge hit with everybody working remotely. There really wasn't that need for commercial office furniture, and we're still seeing that trend now. So for the first time since I graduated college, I found myself jobless. So somebody that had 30 jobs, probably more than that in his lifetime, now didn't have a job. But for some reason, I was very content, and I was very happy and excited to start my next journey. And I was really excited to see what God had planned for me next. So here's a picture. You're probably wondering who these people are, if you couldn't guess. Well, the lady with the nice, cool afro, well, that's my mother. And the guy sitting down there looks like about to enjoy a beverage is my dad. I was raised with my mother in Poughkeepsie, New York. And I have an older brother who's a head men's soccer coach at Dartmouth College. My parents met at Virginia Union University in Richmond, and my father went on to get his MBA from Boston University. After he had graduated and got his MBA, he accepted a job as a mechanical engineer for IBM in Fishkill, New York. And my mother also accepted a position there as well. So I want to tell you a little story about my father. He is from Nigeria, and he had gone back to Nigeria for business. And my mother was supposed to meet up with him a couple months later. Unfortunately, while he was there, he was swimming in the ocean and he drowned. That's what I was told for a long time. Years later, I found out that he was actually drowned and murdered by somebody from the rival tribe in Nigeria. I tell you this story not to make you feel bad or feel bad for me, but it helped mold me about who I am and the things and how I look at life. So there my mother was living in New York with a 6-month-old and a 3-year-old without a family support at all. She had grown up in Richmond, Virginia, no family in New York. What was she to do? Well, she continued to grind. She continued to push forward, and she instilled a high level of work ethic in my brother and I. And she did this by 2 ways. One, she led by example. There wasn't a day that she woke up that I feel like she never went to work. The other thing is this, she constantly reminded my brother of what that saying you see on the left. She said, you need to be 3 or 4 times better than everybody else just to get half. That was the best advice that my mom could have given me. Sorry, show my, it's unstable. She was, a single Black female working for IBM in the 1970s in a male-dominated industry. Excuses were not permitted in our house. Failure was okay and was actually celebrated as long as you didn't make the same mistake twice. The rule in our house was to learn from your failures. So I've worked at Burger King, I've mopped floors for my grandparents' janitorial business, I've owned a landscaping company, I've blacktopped driveways, I picked up dead carcasses off the highway for a living all summer. I've slung hot dogs for Nathan Hot Dogs. I've waited tables at numerous restaurants. I've bartended, I've played professional soccer. I was a bank teller and I was promoted to financial advisor. And I've even sold advertising with the Roanoke Times. That's just to name a few. So why do I tell you all this? And why is there a picture of the worm from Alice in Wonderland on my next slide? Well, this particular scene, he asked Alice, who are you? And that's the name of this presentation is who are you and why is it important? So often right now, employers are finding it the most important thing to find out more about their future prospects, their future employees. So I ask you the question, who are you? Who are you? This will be a question we're going to come back to a little bit later. But what I do want to tell you is the actions and the events in my life help form me, and they're going to do the same thing to you. The decisions you make are going to have a direct impact on how you live, the friends you keep, the person you will marry, and where you will work. And at the end, when you add up all these things, what will that story look like? What will be the narrative? Will it be a positive? Will it be a negative? Even more important, what's your mindset? What are some things that we can incorporate in our mindset to help ensure that we have this positive narrative of our story and how and what's going to be told about us? So the question I have even posed to my kids, and this is funny, 7, 5, and 2, but I ask them this question almost every other day. And I say, are you striving to be the best possible version of you? And I'm asking you that same question. Who are you? And are you striving to be the best possible version of you daily, hourly, by the minute? The decisions you make are really going to dictate this. So what does success look like? It can be different for everybody. And what I want to do is share with you 3 things that I wish somebody would have shared with me when I was in your shoes. I think it would have completely changed my mindset. And it would have had and my life might have had a little bit different outcome. But at the end of the day, I still wouldn't have had the experiences, the trials and tribulations and the failures that I had that made me who I am. So if you can change your mindset, you can go to a whole nother level. So I will tell you that success is not a straight line. And I think most of you probably know that. If success were a straight line, everybody would be successful and everybody would do it. But that's not the case. Success is a bunch of scribbly lines and it's ugly and it's messy and you might go forward and come back. You might go north, south, east, west. But eventually, if you keep going, you will get to the end. The straight line provides no character, no substance. The scribbly line shows scars and shows everything you've done. And employers are looking for that. What have you done? What failures have you had? Now, here's one thing. Success is never ending. And once you think you've made it, it's the beginning of the end. So keep moving forward. Don't look at success as a finish line. So I've broken it down into these 3 things. We've got goals versus habits, failure, and EQ, or emotional intelligence. These are three things that I think can have an amazing effect on your work life and also your personal life. So let's get started. First is goals versus habits. In the comments field, really quick, tell me what you think is more important, goals or your habits. Go ahead. This is how I find out if you're really paying attention or not. Love it. Yeah. Yeah. Unanimous. Unanimous habits. I once heard somebody said, don't set goals, set habits. And you're spot on. All of you are exactly right. Your goals are going to give you direction, but your habits give you progression. And 95% of your behavior is the result of your habits. And if you want to change your behavior, what do you need to change? You need to change your habits. And a goal without a plan is just a wish. Some of you might have heard the Pareto's 80-20 rule. And this rule states that 20% of your activities will account for 80% of your results. If you haven't heard it, let's go ahead and write that down. 20% of your activities will account for 80% of your results. So how does that 80-20 rule work in real life? Here's just a few examples. 20% of the drivers cause 80% of all traffic accidents. 20% of employees are responsible for 80% of the results, and 20% of students have grades 80% or higher. I was not in that 20%. And 20% of the population owns 80% of the world's wealth. So how is this applicable to your daily success? How is this applicable? You need to identify important habits that will make you successful. And these pie charts really illustrate that. If you can identify the 20% of your habits that are most important in your day and get those done first, you will have tremendous results. All too often, myself included, I've done the 80% and then look at the end of the day and saw 20%. How many times at the end of the day have you felt like you've worked your tail to the bone, and then you look back and you realize, I haven't really gotten anything done? It's probably because you're focused on the 80% of the things of your tasks that just weren't important. This is another great illustration of the iceberg, right? You've got the 20% up top and the 80% on the bottom. I love this. This is a huge return. So we have to maybe start changing our mindset to thinking of the 80-20 rule. And here's just another illustration that drives it home. Many trivial tasks, 80% of the time expended, 20% results. Very few vital tasks, 20% of the time, 80% of the results. So how do we start coming up with these good habits? I call it reverse engineering. You might call it something else. But that's breaking down our goals by the habits we're going to form to reach our goals. Perfect example is losing weight. Everybody's looking to do that right now. It's the first of the year, right? So if I want to say, I start with my goal of saying, I want to lose weight. This is me personally. I want to lose weight. Okay, well, what do I have to do? Well, I want to lose 20 pounds by the end of February. Now I'm putting numbers with my goals. Then I say, all right, well, I've got to eat better. I've got to exercise more. I've got to get better rest. I've got to drink water. Now I'm starting to create these habits. So as you move forward and you go through your process and your journey, really focus and try to focus on reverse engineering and break your habits down into the smallest possible and write them down and keep on moving forward with them and trying to accomplish them. So this picture, yet graphic, but I find highly effective because I did this morning, but I didn't have the pistol. And we all feel this way sometimes, okay? And for some people, it's every day. But hitting the snooze button, oh my gosh, it's probably the worst thing we can do when we first wake up in the morning. But it's also not the best habit to create. So sometimes we're creating a terrible habit just from the minute we wake up in the morning, and it compounds. We hit the snooze button for the first 15 minutes. We hit the snooze button for the second 15 minutes. Next thing you know, it's 30 minutes later. We're behind schedule. We're rushing to eat breakfast. We're rushing to take a shower. We're rushing out the door, and we never really got a chance to get our day started correctly. So I was watching this YouTube channel or this YouTube video about a week or so ago. And it made me think about time and habits. And that's what this guy was talking about. And he was saying people want to really control time, but that's impossible. And I agree with him, but you can manipulate it. And what he said was good habits are an ally of time and bad habits are time's enemy. Write that down. Good habits are an ally of time and bad habits are time's enemy. We can start a good habit within the first 2 minutes, or what we'll see here, the first 2 seconds of waking up. That good habit is going to really control and really help us be the best possible version that we can be of ourselves. So the second thing is failure. I'm a huge advocate for failure. And I think everybody should be. So you might be wondering why you see a can of WD-40 on this next slide. WD-40 stands for water displacement and then 40. And everybody has seen this or has some of this in their home. But the story behind it was an aerospace contractor created this as a lubricant or protectant for outer skin for a missile. The product worked so well that employees started taking it and bringing it home and using it. Well, it caught on that it could do more than just lubricate a missile. But the big thing you want to look at here is the 40. It took them 39 opportunities, not failures, to get it right. And the 40th one was why they named this product WD-40. I just find that as a pretty interesting story about how you can look at failures as opportunities. I think failure should be celebrated. Yep, I said it. But like my mother told me earlier, don't fail at the same thing twice. Learn from it, move on. Failures is the greatest opportunity in life. And failure is important to success. And you cannot have one without the other. I was listening to Denzel Washington give a speech, and he said, you're going to fail at something. You are going to suck at something. And it is so true. The mark of a successful person is their ability to see problems as opportunities and not obstacles. So we go back to this illustration again. The road to success should have many failures. It should have many ups and downs, and it shouldn't be a straight line. So I'm sure you've all heard of the comfort zone, right? And you've probably heard the saying, the comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there. We all have our comfort zones. It feels so good there. Stepping out can be freaking scary, you know? But what's the number one reason that people don't get out of their comfort zone? What do you guys think? What's the number one reason that people don't get out of their comfort zone? You can go ahead and put that in the comments field as well. I'm looking forward to it. Love it. Yes, you guys are all on it. I love it. Fear of the unknown, fear of failure, failure. Yes, everything is coming back to fear. Fear will rob you of your creativity and your self-worth. Yes, fear will rob you of both of those things. In order to be successful, I mean really successful, you've got to step out of your comfort zone. I grew up in New York, right outside of New York City, and went to college at West Virginia University, getting out of my comfort zone. Doing this right now is something, getting out of my comfort zone. Well, let me tell you what happens when you get out of your comfort zone. You gain growth, confidence, wisdom, knowledge, understanding, insight, and self-awareness. You're telling me those aren't traits that employers are looking for in you when you're going out to look for a job? These are all things that everybody can benefit from. And these are things your employer is going to benefit from as well. So last but not least, I want to talk about EQ. This could be one of the most important topics we're hearing right now. And it's been on this trend for a long time, especially with companies and when they're looking for future prospects. It's your emotional intelligence. So what is EQ? It's emotional intelligence, and then you've got IQ. But which one is more important? Is it what you know, or is it your empathy? Is it being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes? So I've got this picture here. I don't know if you're familiar with the shoes on the left. You probably are. They're called the Nike Mags. I'm showing my age. Marty McFly wore these in Back to the Future. The cost of these shoes is $50,000. Enter stage right. No explanation needed. I think we'd all agree that these two people wearing these shoes would have two different stories. Can you and do you have the ability to identify with both? This is something that companies are finding more and more and more important, because this is what builds a team. This is what keeps companies together. This is what builds trust. Empathy is the ability to walk in somebody else's shoes. And in my personal opinion, EQ is definitely way more important than IQ. I've had over 30 jobs and I've had to walk in a lot of people's different shoes. And I've seen the impact that it can have on a company. So I don't want you to get it twisted. Sympathy and empathy are completely different, and I'm sure you understand that. But I think this illustration really shows it best. One is being able to really, really identify with somebody and sharing their pain. And the other is just kind of consoling. Hey, I'm sorry about what you went through. I know it's gotta hurt, okay? So how does EQ incorporate into this slide? So this slide, you've got different races, you have different genders, and you have different ages. For the first time in history, we have 4 different generations that are working in the same space. You've got millennials, you've got Gen Z, you've got baby boomers, and you've got Gen X, okay? This involves the highest level of EQ. These people have to be able to communicate and talk to each other, not offend one another. Gen Zers are blaming the millennials are blaming baby boomers are blaming Gen Xers for all the things that are going wrong in a company. But if you can show and show an example of how you can make all these things work together, all these different generations work together, you will be looked at as a very, very valued employee to any company. So here are just some interesting stats regarding EQ. 90% of top performers have a high EQ. And 58% of your job performance is going to be related to your emotional intelligence. And on top of that, people with high EQ, guess what? They make more money. They're going to be bringing in more revenue just because they have that one trait. So as we recap, and I just want to go back over everything, you've got your goals versus your habits, and we all agreed that your habits are more important. We also all agree that you need to fail. Failure is important to success. Failure is the equivalent of an opportunity. Can't have one without the other. And then when we're talking about emotional intelligence, how important it is for you to be able to show this to future employers and in your personal life, not just your work life. So we go back to the first question I asked you. Who are you? And I added here, who are you really? Are you being the best possible version of yourself every day? And how will your story be told when you are gone? There's a motivational speaker called Jim Rohn, and he said that there are 2 pains that you can suffer: the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. The pain of discipline weighs ounces, but the pain of regret weighs tons. Now, the best part about this is you get to make these decisions. And you're at a point in your life where every decision you make is going to have a long-lasting effect. I asked you the last time, are you being the best possible version of yourself? And how will your story be told once you are gone? I appreciate your time and taking time to spend with me. This is my message, and this is what I really want to share with you. I feel that this is important part of where you are right now. And like I said in the beginning, I wish these were some of the things that somebody would have possibly shared with me when I was in your shoes.